thank you so much for staying right here with us. Loveday Operum is our guest in the studio. I'm talking about the coordinator of the Agri-Graduate Association of Nigeria, River State Chapter. Yes, like the name implies, he's an agro-expert and a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Loveday.
Good morning. Any happy new month?
Yes, I love the outfit. Oh, you don't look like the fuel scarcity is affecting you in any way.
I don't want to
look like what you're facing.
I don't want to look like what I'm facing, but as a matter of fact, I didn't drive this morning.
Wow.
I had to use public transport, and it was hell using public transport because I spent like ×3 of what it used to be. So
okay, but not more than what you would have spent on fuel now.
Definitely, that's what I'm telling you.
Because a lot of people say it's easier to use the commercial vehicles than buying fuel in your vehicle, so they just saved you some money.
They didn't. they didn't save me some money. I spent more because if I were to use my private vehicle, I would have, planned myself in order to touch 1 or 2 places after the show.
Okay.
But now I had to come down straight, and then once I'm done, I don't think I will be able to do some other movements, so I'll be going back straight to the office.
Oh, I thought you wanted to stay home. I would have said it's a plus for your family. They'll have you back so early. All right, let's go to Lagos State now. We have reports that Lagos State government has announced that it would start to trace the distribution and prices of food items to ensure that consumers are not ripped off. This was disclosed yesterday by the Lagos State Commissioner of Agriculture, Ms. Bisola Olusoya, who represented the state governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, at the 2024 LCCI Agri Symposium and Fair. Olusoya said going forward, government has said any support to any farmer has to be with an agreement that will dictate the price at which the product will be sold in the market. The federal, state and local governments invest so much in food production, but we do not follow our investments to the market. She said going forward, the state government's investment should be tailored for the government to know the markets the beneficiaries are selling their products and the landing price in that market compared to their cost of production. I wouldn't want to bring in any analysis here. I just want to find out your thoughts on this story.
Wow, it's part of government requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of what is expected of government to do in order to ensure that price of foodstuffs and then agricultural produce is stable. Thank God that the hardship is beginning to wake up different sectors, and of course the government to now assume their full responsibility as required. Is what doing.
So it hasn't been that way. This is just in Lagos State. Now in other states, in River State, probably when the government has given out grants or funds to agri-experts, they usually do not follow. Do they usually follow the product to the market?
We have said it time with that number. How would the government follow when most of the beneficiaries are portfolio farmers? People that do not have a site, they don't have farm. So how do you think the government will follow up? So if the government, especially Lagos State government, have not decided to monitor the process down to the market, that means they are not ready to fund the real farmers. And it takes a government that is ready to fund the real farmers to follow the price of produce down to the market.
How sustainable do you think that move would be?
That's another critical point to look at. But I think there is always a beginning point. Let us start first and then see how it goes.
You think it's something that other state governors should take lead from?
Definitely, because we have, I cannot boldly say that there are no persons that are jeopardizing or trying to make the whole system tougher for the government. There are some that they don't even produce. They take advantage of the producers, they buy these things and then hike the price. You understand the point? So it's something that is commendable, and then every state government that wants to stabilize the prices of agricultural produce and foodstuffs in their state should queue in, release the fund to the real farmers, and then monitor them. That is how the process should be. You don't release fund and then you just go and sit back in your house and expect. Of course, the farmers' knowledge is limited. Most of the farmers are not economists. They are not financial experts. So they also need, guidance in these areas.
But there's usually a provision for monitoring. Because I know that I have seen a process where some people were registering, some farmers were registering for a particular grant at some point, and then from some of the requirements or some of the criteria that they were informed of was that they would be monitored to make sure that they are actually real farmers, doing what they have said they would do. So if there are already provisions for monitoring, then is it any different from what is being mentioned here?
Yeah, you can have a provision for a particular thing, but the implementation becomes a challenge. And that is one of the major issues that we've been noticing our recording when it comes to agricultural policies and all of that. The implementation aspect of it has not been kept, has not been followed by relevant agencies. And then let me quickly say this based on what you just said. Now, you see, once farmers gets or goes to the bank to get a loan for their agricultural business, you discover that the bank do more of follow-up than the government. Once it's government fund and the farmers are aware, you see that lackadaisical attitude. The government do not really monitor the process. And those that also take this loan do not take it very seriously to ensure that the loan is being paid back. But once it has to do with the bank, you see seriousness, and the bank, they must follow you up. So if you notice any serious monitoring, once a grant or loan is being released, just take a closer look. You discover that that money is coming from the bank angle, not money from the government. But
from what you have explained now, it looks like even though the money gets to the farmers, amongst the farmers, there's still people who need it and people who don't need it.
Definitely.
Because you have said that even some farmers, even when they get the funds, they still don't make, they're not careful what they're doing. They still don't make, some of them don't even make use of it in their agricultural sector.
Exactly.
So we have farmers who don't need it. So that means, does it mean that they just bring these funds to them?
You know,
do they go to process this fund and still not use it?
Definitely. It happens. And that is where the issue of, the government setting up a very formidable team that will have to monitor how these funds are being utilized is very necessary, is very important in this sense. Now, if the government wants to ensure that the purpose for releasing a particular fund is being actualized, then I don't think ensuring and investigating or thoroughly assessing the feasibility study that the farmer provides will be a difficult task by the government. But you see a situation where people will assess loan and there is no justifiable feasibility study for the amount you are assessing from the government. How do you pay back? How do the government now monitor the process and then recover their fund? Because it is the feasibility study that will tell whoever that is providing that facility, okay, this person knows what he or she wants to do with this fund. And then after critically analyzing or examining the particular paper presented, you now say, okay, yes, we can release so and so amount, or we will not release based on what is on ground. But you see most persons assessing this loan, there is no documentation. Once there is a recommendation, he's a farmer, so and so name should be given facility. You see them giving facility, and at the end of the day, the person, once the money comes, will use the money to do what he or she feels is what he needs, and not necessarily what the government released that particular fund for.
Okay, this is an issue now that has been stated, and not a lot of Nigerians are aware of it. How is this affecting the agricultural sector?
Is affecting the system so seriously that even the real farmers are beginning to get discouraged. We say it time without number that there are people that are passionate when it comes to agriculture. People are willing to farm. People are ready to farm. But because of political contact, most of these farmers in rural areas, those that are even providing the food that you and I consume, most of them do not have the political contact. Most of them do not have link to government. And for you to have government facilities, believe me, considering our system, the way things work here, you must have one man, one uncle, or somebody that, have decided to that is close to the government. Now, since the business is not always very transparent, let me use that word, there must be connection. There is no committee that goes down to the grassroots to identify who these real farmers are. You discover that those that are doing the business are discouraged because they don't receive the facility. You see yourself struggling. You're the one doing this thing. You're the one providing what the same person that is assessing the facility is even consuming, and then you don't have the facility. So is really telling on agriculturists in the country, and especially in South here, where our governors seem not to understand, you know, the role of agriculture in developing our economy.
Why do you say so?
I say so because it's all over. How many industries, agricultural industries, do we have in South? You can't find much. So that's how I came to that conclusion, that they do not understand the role of agriculture in industrialization or developing our economy.
They say South governors are not paying enough attention to agriculture.
They are not. I must tell you that. They are not.
But from your explanation earlier, there was something you said about wanting to, the farmers, they need to know somebody in government before they can access the loans. Does it mean that it's only people who know people, who have godfathers in the system, that get to access loans?
That's what it seems to be. That is it. Because like I told you, I've said it before, I am a farmer and I've been practicing for over 15 years.
You've never been able to access
and I've not accessed any facility. I've made move. I've went to Bank of Agriculture. And I have farms. There was a time Minister of Agriculture came to visit our farm. And the commissioner then were like, you mean something like this is in this state? You mean individual can farm up to this point? As I talk to you, we receive calls from outside the state based on what we're doing. But today, that settings is no longer there. Because we got to the point we never had the capacity to sustain, you know, what we're doing, and then to also guide against insecurity. One of the major challenges we had was insecurity. To fence where we were using to farm was a problem. We hadn't the capital, and then, you know, this issue of theft and these hoodlums, how to start visiting the farm with weapons. And one of our security dogs, you know, was killed. And at that point, we felt highly threatened. And we decided to move.
So insecurity with farmers is not just about the farmers and headers?
No, not just about that.
We'll get to talk about that much later. But let's look at the NYSC scheme now. The Director General of NYSC, Brigadier General Yeshua Ahmed, has informed corps members that they will not regret participating in all the camp activities. According to him, such activities are meant to make them rugged and enable the corps members to outstand future rigorous lives. He addressed corps members of the 2024 Batch B Stream 2 while on a working visit to the Kaduna State NYSC orientation camp on Wednesday. And he, however, cautioned the corps members against hiding their medical challenges while also participating in all camp activities if they are healthy. Speaking on the Skills Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Department program, that side, he said it would be beneficial to them after service, adding that it had produced billionaires. Ahmed said that the scheme was in partnership with many organizations which gave out loans to corps members without interest. This is just one activity in the camp. There are various other activities in the camp that I would like to, you know, point out later on the show, but that will be definitely after I find out your thoughts on this story.
Okay, is always like that.
What is always like that now?
Yes, the lyrics, the verbal, you know, promotion of NYSC. But when it comes to what the scheme is supposed to deliver or impact on the corps members is a different story altogether. You know, hearing ruggedity, that's what we're hearing, and I keep asking myself, do we actually want to join a military? Ruggedity shouldn't be just is part of it, but we need smart development. We need corps members that will be smart, not just rugged. So I feel NYSC, in as much as the scheme is okay, is commendable, but NYSC needs improvement. From when I left camp till date, it's still similar, the same thing we've been hearing. And before I also went to camp, I was hearing the same. So I think there should be serious improvement when it comes to this.
On a lighter note now, you know there's this saying that if you can survive in Nigeria, you can survive anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the NYSC scheme Do you think that the NYSC scheme in any way has helped Nigerians to survive?
That's why I
all
talked
what we are
about,
surviving.
you know, talking about ruggedity. Even our students are already, they are rugged. Prior to assessing or entering into the camp, the nation economy, the situation around the campus has already made us rugged. You know, so NYSC should improve and then come up with more innovative.
Yes, let's talk about
ideas.
the ways in which you suggest that the NYSC should improve.
Yes, you know, I've always advocated for this. If Nigeria wants to enhance professionalism in professional fields or discipline, recall that in most of our institutions, higher institutions, we do not have enough time to do practical and then specialize in most of the professional disciplines. Now, 1 year is, in fact, let me also say this. What made me who I am today agriculturally is because of the 1 year IT, not my NYSC. And I want to commend my institution for that. 1 year compulsory IT outside River State. You understand that?
The farm.
Yes, I did my IT in Akwa Ibom State, all the way from my own state, the state where I school, to another state. And I was living in the farm. That's why I saw different technologies. You know, so if...
When they, sorry to cut you there, you continue, but when they send the students to various states for their IT, were you sent to that particular location or you chose it?
The school sent us to that particular location.
Was there a provision for accommodation?
Definitely, exactly.
And welfare and all of that?
Sure.
So money was sent to you?
The farm was giving us stipend. You know, it's long ago. They were giving us something just small. But it's part of your education, so they are not supposed to fund all your expenses.
All right. Continue with what you think.
Yeah, so going back to the issue of NYSC, right?
Yes.
You see, if Nigeria wants to professionalize or to increase professionalism in professional field or discipline, there is need to make judicious use of our 1 year service. The 1 year service here is a good time to inculcate professionalism into our students, especially for those of them that are into professional discipline.
Are you saying core members who are into these disciplines are not sent to the areas or the sectors where they belong?
That is the point. That is the point. Like in my own case, when I did the NYSC, I was actually sent to a place where there was no room for me to even exhibit what I can do. The environment was not conducive for teaching because of insecurity then. And
you were sent to a classroom? That's
definitely.
a school, okay.
Yes, because of insecurity, I declined. And some of my colleagues were, I love this cannot happen. You must get doctor's report. And going by my philosophy and the way I was raised, I was finding it difficult to go and forge a medical report. Some people were doing that. I said, no, I will say it the way it is. The environment is not secure. That's Kaduna, let me be specific. The environment wasn't secure then. And then if you push me to that place, you can't tie me rope. I will end up not serving. I will not go there because my life is important to me, also important to my family and to the nation. So I will not go there. So I made my report. I did a kind of protest letter or an appeal to the management. I said the reason I wouldn't want to go to that place is because the place is not secure. And if you venture, send me to that place, I will not perform. So my 1 year service here will be wasted, because I can't risk my life. And to my greatest surprise, it was honored. Yes, it was approved. So I now applied for relocation or redeployment. So I was now redeployed. That was how I now moved to Abia State, where I served.
But before we go on with your activities while you served and all of that, now, you know, we've discussed this before, and I had to mention that do we need the students to actually write, for us to know that that part of the country at that time was not so safe?
That is the insensitivity
when you hear of
insecurities
insecurities from some states, and then you hear that, I'm saying this because I remember my younger brother was actually one of those. At that time, when he was sent to a particular state, there was insecurity in that state, and we're hearing issues of insecurity. And this boy was sent there from River State. So I was asking questions like, why would you want to send anybody to a part of the country where we all know media is telling us every day, we're seeing
that
videos
the place is insecure.
You understand? So why do we really have to wait for the student to write for us to know what to do? And you know, some people were suggesting that you just allow people to serve where they are, but don't you think that's going to defeat the scheme, NYSC?
Yes, it's a two-way thing there. It's just like if we can relate this to the community policing. It's out of place now. But that's one of the reasons those that have been endorsing that particular policy have been endorsing it. Because that it takes somebody within a geographical location, you know, to guide and protect. So if you want to destroy, it's like your environment, you're destroying. Nobody will want to use his own hand to scatter what he's trying to build or what he has built. You know, so similar concept can be applied or adopted, and when it comes to an NYSC scheme. I subscribe to that, considering the level of insecurity in some areas, until the government addresses those insecurity issues. Let people serve within their terrain and then place them, that's the point I was about making before, send them to where, you know, areas that will impact them, and then also give them the room to also issue out what the knowledge they have acquired. So that is what NYSC needs. And then the program or the scheme should be smart. Technology has advanced. You know, needless of doing similar thing we have been doing for the past 10 years. For goodness sake, is not encouraging. It's not encouraging, and that's why you see some persons will do. There are some persons that are even, you know, taking exemption because of insecurity and some of the things they have heard probably from senior colleagues that nothing comes out, nothing come out of the program, like our people will always say. You know, so the system is a good one, but they should critically look at what it tends to achieve. Something that have been running for over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, as the case may be. There is need for critical review that will be conspicuous, that the people will see, oh, this is an upgrade, this is a kind of an advancement. The system has upgraded, not repeating the same thing. That's where I have issue, because the world has moved. There is no how you keep me at a particular point for 5 years and I will remain there. I'm a progressive. So, and that is the generation we are. The youth we have, you know, the things we have, they are growing with the speed of light. And the government system, various government agencies and sectors that has something to do directly with our youth need to also improve. Very critical. Very critical. I once did a research on corpus perception of the Community Development Service of NYSC. And then, though a long time ago, I was even thinking that the corpus wouldn't subscribe to the issue that NYSC should, the Community Development Service should continue. But I discovered a majority of the corpus subscribed to that. But they were lamenting on improvement, on advancement of the Community Development scheme. Sorry, the NYSC scheme. Until date, that lamentation is still there. So I want to see this opportunity to appeal to the government, is government program. They should upgrade the system and make it more attractive. So once somebody finishes his 1 year service, the person can boldly, you know, enter into wherever field the person is or belongs to, with boldness and confidence.
All right, thank you so much. When we talk about adding to the scheme, upgrading the scheme, introducing new probably policies or ventures or activities that would make it more interesting, like you have said. But let's look at some of the things that people think should be scrapped from the NYSC. That's talking about the activities now. How do you see the rigorous activities that have been mentioned? You know, when you talk about NYSC and rigorous activities, there's only one place that your mind can go to. Only one place. And that has to do with videos that we see online. For those people who did not serve, I served, so I experienced it firsthand, even though those guys didn't let us take pictures and videos then. But then, the videos that we see of people trying to climb, sometimes you ask yourself, like, what is this for? You have a high, maybe like a board, and then after that you have like a net where someone would have to then have a little hole in front. What is, when you ask for the significance of all of these things, well, it has been stated in this story that it is to help you, you know, face life after NYSC. But do you think all of that is, how do you think think that is affecting or impacting the students?
Is for me, there is no significant impact that those rigorous activities has on the students, except for those that are coming from the military background, military school. Yes, we need to define this thing. For instance, I, for one, since I finished NYSC, have I ever climbed what do they call that rope? I've not done those masquerade whatever.
Maybe you have had it in life, like, you know, you have had challenges in life that has helped you, you know, surpass.
The challenges in Nigeria outside camp is huge enough to pattern somebody, to make you strong. You know, that service year is very critical. It's very important. Those activities, the system needs to review those activities. Of course, you and I know that some persons have actually had issues in cause of some of those trainings. Like the one that affected me. I didn't eat in the morning, and the soldiers pushed all of us out. We went to the parade ground, you know, I think 7 or 6 a.m. I've forgotten the time. Now, very early in the morning. And
6 a.m., that's very fair.
Okay.
Some camps come out at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. for my camp then.
And we were outside, and I was hungry. We're outside parading, turning the pitch around. And at some point, I couldn't hold myself again. I squat. I just bent down. Was holding my tummy. And so I said, hey, Kai, you, stand up. I said, and you know, they will always feel as if you're pretending.
Yeah.
But I was almost dying. And then I said, Oga, I can't. My stomach is, you know, you will always be scared of their
And we always had a lot of people fainting.
Exactly. So I managed myself, but after that incident that day, it wasn't funny. I had to devise a different means to help myself. You know, so that rigorous, of course, they will tell you if you have health challenge, you should report.
Indicates.
But how about in the case where you even you're already in camp and you open up to the soldiers and they seem not to believe you because of maybe their previous experiences and all of that. So those rigorous, it should be voluntary.
Okay.
If they must maintain, it should be voluntary.
All right. Let's also look at one more thing before we move from this story now. You mentioned the fact that for professional courses especially, we should have the students serving in that sector to enhance their knowledge and especially practical knowledge of that particular sector and that particular profession. But let's look at the availability of these people. Do we have enough? Especially when you look at the education sector. If you say only students who've studied education should be sent to schools, are we going to have enough? Will these schools really have enough corpers? Because we've heard these schools several times say that the corpers that come in really help the system because they might not even have enough hands on ground.
That's the government failure. And believe me, the system, we have enough hands to man ministries. But the government have refused to employ. You know, I've done little assessment and I've discovered that some of our government, you know, some of our public officials, especially the government, they seem to, permit me to use the word, they seem to demonstrate some form of wickedness when it comes to doing and enacting or implementing policies that has direct impact on the masses. We have adequate educationists. We have people that are read, that are knowledgeable in that field, but they have not been given the platform they have not been engaged. They are not employed. So you see, they once employed like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they keep shouting, no hands, so we don't have enough staff. But just do a little assessment of all the institutions, the number of graduates that is being churned out on yearly basis. Where are those graduates? Those people that studied education, where are they? If our government wants to engage them, believe me, they will not leave what they have studied and then dive into other things. For instance, myself, I'm a corn farmer and I love farming. And if after doing all I'm trying to do, you know, self-help, and I get to the point that my family is now weighing on me, what I'm getting from my farming activity is no longer, won't I look for something else? Peradventure, if another door opens, nobody will even believe that love they had ever farmed before. And over time, the passion for farming will just die naturally. So that is it. If our government, you know, is serious with engaging our graduates, my dear, there is no how we have limited number of teaching staff in our institutions. It's not just possible. So it has nothing to do with taking professionals. Maybe somebody studied engineering that is supposed to be working in an automobile workshop or engineering workshop to learn how to fix, do the practical thing of what he has studied, and you're not channeling the person to the classroom.
But another issue is these other sectors, do they have enough industries, do they have enough companies to accommodate these core members in that particular field?
That's the aspect I was also looking at, and thank God you just mentioned it. Now, who is to blame? If there are no enough industries to accommodate the professionals, who should be held responsible? It is still the same government. You see, everything revolves around the government. Just like in my area, there was a time it was said that, no graduate. We are looking for graduates to give job. People are not studying. That's those days. But currently, there are more than enough graduates. So also in the country, so also in Nigeria and in various states, across the various professions. So days are gone where you say we don't have people to fit into this particular field. We're looking, the people are there. We have more people. The government should open up the system. The government should set up industry that will accommodate these people. And all of these things has, direct impact, of course, positive impact on our economy. Once the government is not making judicious use of her manpower, there is no how the economy will grow. There is no how the economy will
advance.
And then
also having the people now, a lot of times we normally how the system is supposed to be is when you graduate from this particular field or profession, you start up something. Not everybody might, but that is set. Imagine someone saying, I graduated 15 years ago and still now I've not gotten a job. I'm still looking for a job. And now that's somebody who probably could have started up a company, who would have accommodated the new set of people who are coming out from the universities. So when we have all these people who are supposed to start off something to bring in the other people, all of them are, some of them are unemployed, looking for and hoping on the government to get them something to do. And before you know it, more sets keep coming. 15 years, that means 15 different sets have come, and joined. All of them are just out there waiting for the government to do something. People have said time and time again that the government cannot really employ everybody, even though we cannot take away the fact that they have their role to play. But we also have our roles to play when we talk about looking for something innovative to do. But then you still channel it down to people starting these innovative ventures and not having a conducive environment for their businesses to even thrive. You talked about your business that couldn't at some point. You started having challenges of insecurity and all that. So we have our role to play. The government has their role to play. People in leadership have their role to play. Let's move on to the next story. We have reports that the federal government has commenced the sale of 30,000 metric tons of subsidized meal rice to Nigerians at the rate of 40,000 naira per 50 kg bag. It started the subsidized rice sale at a ceremony that took place in Abuja on Thursday. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, said the initiative was made possible by the directives of President Bola Tinubu, who is committed to ensuring that Nigerians do not go to bed hungry. The minister emphasized that the federal government had put in place measures to ensure transparency and success in the sales of the subsidized rice based on one person per bag to ensure wider reach and fairness. The minister expressed optimism that the injection of 30,000 metric tons of rice into the Nigerian food balance sheet would not only reduce the price of rice, but also other closer food substitute and alternatives, one person per bag. Yes, how do you see this scheme?
That's if it will get to the to the masses, those that really need it. It's quite commendable. Is a step. Is a step. I think that's an upgrade from the usual palliative of 1 tuber of yam or 2 cups or half rubber of rice. But as a professional in this field, it is not what the country needs. It is not what the masses need. The government has made an attempt, and we must commend that. But will this particular initiative, will the local household, would they have access to this one bag of rice that will be going for 40,000 naira? Won't the strong men also hijack the rice at the price of 40,000 and then come out to sell for 60,000. That is what I'm also envisaging that will likely happen if the government will not also monitor the process very well. However, I want to still suggest, rather than doing all of this, the government should blow up production in the country and then see how to drastically bring down the price of food produce or foodstuff, which borders on the fuel, the petroleum subsector. That is what the country needs. If you give me, for instance, in my family, I don't think one bag of rice will last more than 2 months. It will not. It will not last more than 2 months. You know, so if I'm able to get it for 40,000 naira and it serves me for 2 months, am I sure I will also get another one? Or is once you get the tick that you have, bag, you know, that you have gotten, and then that's all? So you see, it's not, I doubt if it can be sustained. The initiative, I don't see that sustainability index, you know, very strong there. So the government, why they are doing all of this temporary measure, what will bring about a lasting solution to the issue of hunger and food insecurity in Nigeria? That's what the government should be hitting on. By now, the farmers, I've been expecting that the federal government would have given a kind of a mandate to the Federal Minister of Agriculture, make sure that around the 36 states of the country, each state is being mandated to produce so and so based on their area of comparative advantage. Those that are, you know, known for fish production, provide facilities for the fish farmers, train the fish farmers, do everything humanly possible for them to produce and then preserve or process. Then those of them in crop production, make sure you provide enough seedlings. Those are the kind of things we want to be hearing. Those that are known for rice production, we want to hear that the government has mandated, has empowered so and so number of farmers that in less than no time, in the next 3 to 6 months, Nigerians rice farmers will be hitting so and so metric tons of rice. That is what we're expecting, and not injecting 30,000 tons of rice and then the price is being reduced. What if that one is, when that one is being exhausted, what next? You know,
what's just going through my mind right now is, ever since we've been talking about food shortage, food inflation and all of that, we really haven't heard so much from the Ministry of Agriculture as to what they are doing to solve. We've heard about some state governors, you know, probably giving out funds to people affected from the flood, farmers affected by the flood. We've heard this is coming from the Lagos State now, although still from the Lagos State government, but then Lagos State governor was represented by the Commissioner of Agriculture in that state. So it wasn't like we heard that the Commissioner of Agriculture in Lagos State was doing this. Nah, yes. We heard that she represented the governor. This was the thought and initiative coming from the governor. So or then we hear that the federal government is doing this for farmers in certain places. We've not really heard. Or have you heard anything coming from the agriculture sector, the Ministry of Agriculture in Nigeria?
Nothing serious and encouraging. We've not heard any serious statement that has to do with agricultural policy to ameliorate the current effect of food shortage in the country. And it's a terrible situation. Very terrible situation. You know, at times I ask myself, is it that when some persons are being given the opportunity to serve, is it that our senses disappears? Is it that our sense of human, our rationality just, you know, vanishes all of a sudden? Just like I'm talking now, you know, some people say, I love the way you analyze. I begin to ask myself, is it that when I'm being given an opportunity to serve, then all of these policies, some of these things, people-oriented initiative that I have, then I will no longer implement them? What is that challenge that is limiting our public office holder, especially political appointee, from exercising their authority, the mandate given to them by their principal? What is that particular? For me, as a professional, I'm occupying a particular office, and my principal wouldn't allow me to function effectively. You're killing me. Then I'll quickly resign. I can't continue. So if you ask me, I wouldn't want to blame the principals. It is those mandated to do the bidding or to perform the task. And now that takes us back to professionalism. If I am not a medical professional, I don't understand what a particular health challenge entails, or what my people, where I'm covering, the kind of ill health or the implication of a particular disease on the people, and that disease keep ravaging, do you think I can come out boldly on media to talk about it? I don't think that's possible. So this issue of hunger in the land is exposing what is going on in our ministries of agriculture. It's simply telling the world, telling the country that we have non-professionals manning those parastatals, manning those ministries, manning those agricultural agencies. Because if we have professionals in those fields, those professionals knows what to do. They know how to advise the government, and you will see radical transformation. But what do we see? Everything you hear is the government, the government. How about the person, the ministry in charge of solving that particular problem? What is the policy that the ministry is formulating? What is the proposal that that ministry is sending to the government? And the government will only do what she can do.
You've been a professional in this sector, in this field for some time now, for years now, right?
Sure.
So, is it just something that's going on now? When we talk about not hearing so much from the agricultural ministry in Nigeria, is it just in this period, or have we had it like this for a long time?
Well, it has been let me say from our democratic era, I think it has been like this in some parts of the country. It has been like this. But prior to the democratic era, you discover that agriculture was booming. Those in the agricultural sector, you know, they were doing well. They were proud of themselves because that particular sector was the one, you know, accommodating and then holding the economy. But since the democratic season, and then when the oil issue became so much advertised and publicized, it appeared as if that ministry, that sector, you know, started receiving low attention from the government. And then the government was no longer sensitive on the kind of persons that man those agencies and ministry for them. So it has not been like this all the while, like we knew and have read. But in recent times, especially from the democratic era, you discover that there has been a very serious decline in attention given to agriculture.
How do you see some of these temporary measures that are being taken by the government to curb the issue of food shortage and food inflation?
The temporary measures are okay. The
palliative distribution, this story about the rice meal, and some other ones that we've heard recently.
Yes, I wouldn't condemn that in total, because the people also need temporary measure. They need something to quench their thirst and hunger. But the question is, how sustainable are these measures? How sustainable? That is why we, as a professional, I wouldn't want to be moved by the number I'm hearing, you know, because I know that the sustainability factor there is less than 30 or 20%. You understand? So we will keep advocating that the government should do the needful.
Before we even talk about how sustainable it should be, we should look at how effective it will be in the first place.
Good. That's it.
If you hear the amounts that is being invested in some of these temporary measures, let's even start with the palliatives. If you're being told how much was put in that, you'd tell yourself, or you'd realize that if that money was probably channeled to something more, probably the challenges that these farmers are facing, it would even go a longer way, yes, to affect or impact that particular sector. But at this point, we'll take some time off. We're going to short break, and then we return. We have other stories to discuss. Please stay with us. thank you so much for joining us and staying with us. If you're just joining us, welcome. If you've been here, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And we still have our guests in the studio, and we're just dissecting different issues happening in Nigeria. Let's look at the Fiscal Responsibility Commission. They have issued a stern warning against the misapplication of borrowing proceeds, emphasizing the need for greater fiscal discipline and adherence to the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The discussion was delivered by Executive Chairman of the FRC, Victor Muruako, during his welcome address at the National Summit of Fiscal Responsibility Agency in Nigeria that was held on Thursday at the NAF Conference Center, Abuja. Muruako stressed the importance of ensuring that borrowing proceeds are used solely for long-term capital expenditure, as outlined in Section 44, subsection 2B of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. He reiterated highlighting frequent violations of this provision by various levels of government. The FRC chairman expressed concern over the lack of adherence to the conditions stipulated in the Fiscal Responsibility Act, particularly the subnational government. Muruako also addressed issues related to inadequate fiscal coordination, especially in debt management and procurement practices, which have implications for Nigeria's overall debt profile. Now, let's look at Nigeria's overall debt profile now. Maybe not overall, but a statement from the World Bank recently that Nigeria is now the third, debtor in the world.
In the whole world.
Talking about from the World Bank, when they released their top 10, Nigeria took the third position. And now having this story talking about debt service where the FRC is warning against misuse of loans, it's pointing at something now. I don't know if you're looking at where it's pointing at. And then the fact that they have mentioned that the rule, the regulation of the commission is not even kept, is not followed by some of these government officials who get to borrow. So, what is your analysis of the story, your reaction?
There is a saying that it is the rat inside that told the one outside, or that showed the one outside where the fish in the house is kept. You understand the point? So, there is no how an average Nigerian, someone like you and I, will go and borrow, and then the government will not proactively go after you and I. It's happening within them. So the FRC should go after those politicians, those government functionaries or personnel that are borrowing the money meant for the nation without probably utilizing it very well to advance the economy of Nigeria. They should go after them. They're warning, what are we going to do? Are you aware when they borrow the money? We don't know. So releasing that kind of statement at this particular point in time is like also telling Nigerians that the thing is now choking us. We now need to start speaking out. Let the world know what we are facing through, or what we are passing through. Let Nigerians know. He should go beyond that point. He specifically mentioned state and local, right? Let us have the data. Make the data public if they don't want to refund the money, because this is Nigerian money, it's all our money. So if some persons have collected and because they are part of the system and they don't want, then make it public. Let us know that you are now sincere and you are ready to now go after them.
Let's look at the misuse of loans, right? Loans are not just given out. You have to state what you want to use the loan for. And if they are talking about misuse of loans, it means that the loans are not even used for what they said they'll be used for. And then going back to the World Bank, now we had other countries, taking the Nigeria took the front burner, top 3. I mean, that's a lot. It already shows that the funds that we're collecting, the loans that we're collecting, are we really utilizing them? Look at the economy. One would think, looking at the amounts that the World Bank has said Nigeria has borrowed, one would think that maybe it could have, enhanced the economy. But at the moment, the economy is bleeding. Imagine this administration saying that they inherited a dead economy. That was actually their statement. And then when we followed up that story about the World Bank stating Nigeria's third position in the borrowing space, we also looked at them mentioning that it also had to do a lot with this administration not taking that out of the picture. So how can we even come to a point where these people will get to understand utilizing the loan? Let's even look at how exactly this is affecting our economy. Collecting loans should help your business, right?
That is it.
But at the end of the day, your business is suffering and yet you're
Scrambling.
collecting loans. So let's look at how exactly this is affecting our economy.
You know, it boils down to what we said before. Because it has to do with government, there is no proper monitoring, there is no implementation of sanctions. Some of the rules that that are being stated, nobody bothers. Is national cake. So you collect your own, I collect my own, and then next administration comes and inherited the economy just like we had in this current administration, and the system keeps recycling like that to the detriment of the masses, to the detriment of poor Nigerians. It is an eye-opener to Nigerians hearing this from the FRC chairman, that loans are not being judiciously used, are being misapplied. And then Nigerians are lamenting, Nigerians are crying. What are they doing about it? Like I said before, issuing stern warning is not just what is required. If somebody that took a loan has failed, just like the bank, once you fail, they go after you.
There's no smiling.
No, it is business. There is,
yes.
It has legal document. You invoke the legal action immediately. But how many of our politicians, how many of our government personnel that you have heard while in office that he misappropriated or he didn't apply a particular loan that he took, and then the government went after them?
There's a saying that it's the people that go into leadership. The leadership positions are held by Nigerians. People who were probably formerly just, amongst the masses. And then so there's this, I want us to look at it from here. I know we would always want to look at what the government is doing or not doing. Of course, we'll get to talk about that, which you already started doing. But let's look at the fact that there's this borrowing nature. There's this borrowing. Have you seen these loan apps crying out? A lot of people have borrowed from loan apps. And that's the end of it. In fact, I heard someone the other day saying, don't worry, they can't come after you. There's nothing they can do. And then there was a particular loan app at one point where people were saying that there were lots of skits that were released. That's how we knew that that's what they do. They just come to your door, like they want to preach to you, and you confirm. Once you confirm you are that person, they pick you up immediately. So we have this, do you think that we have this borrowing nature amongst us, and then we just want to lavish money? Or what exactly is the problem? Because these people in leadership are coming from the masses. It's one of us. So this ideology that the people have, then they take it into government. And that is what is probably happening currently. But for where the economy is at the moment, do you think that borrowing is something that we should be doing now? Or do you think that do you think the economy can strive without borrowing?
Is not out of place to borrow. I don't think government can operate efficiently without borrowing. Some individuals into business too may not, I don't think they can as well function effectively without borrowing. I don't know anyone into business and the business is advancing and you want to attain higher level that you wouldn't want to also get facility from somewhere and inject. Okay. I think the major problem is the mindset, the mentality of our people when it comes to government fund, which is our collective entitlement. Some of us, once we get into government office or position, we see it like it is my turn to collect. It is my turn to take part of the national cake. So when they even collect facilities, when they borrow, they don't deem it necessary to refund. And of course, because there's no accurate database or monitoring system or sanction that will be followed, based on them defaulting. So that gives them the boldness and the courage to do all manner of things. Considering the way Nigeria is currently, I wouldn't subscribe or suggest that our government should keep borrowing. Rather than borrowing, our government should attempt to creating a stable economy and then industrialize the nation. Let the people get to working. Once I work, pay me for my service. I keep wondering why it's difficult for Nigerian leaders to think in that direction and implement their blueprint. You discover that once I was listening to one state the other day, you need to see the governorship aspirant. You know, you need to see the good things he was saying. And I was like, well, and people were hailing him, shouting. In my mind, I was asking, so I never still get sense. People are still hailing, shouting. Once the person gets into office, all the blueprint, all he has said will be forgotten. You know, so Nigeria, we are used to that. We are used to saying good things. Then when it comes to implementation, you see us lagging behind. So I want to quickly suggest that the issue of borrowing should be drastically reduced. The issue of our country collecting more loans, individuals from the handling government offices, you know, borrowing from the government facility should be reduced. The government should use that money to develop the economy where the masses will have direct impact of what the money is being used for. That is what we should be talking about at this practical point in time.
Thank you so much, Loveday. Let's look at the next story now. Following the harsh economic situation and high cost of foodstuff in the country, the federal government has at this point approved a 50% increase in the feeding allowance for inmates in Nigeria with effect from August 2024. Okay, which means it's already started. Now, the ACC Abubakar Omar, the Public Relations Officer of Nigeria's Correctional Center, made this known on Thursday, noting that it is the first phase of a broader review of inmates' welfare to enhance living conditions for inmates. Following a presentation during the budget process, the federal government deemed it necessary to adjust the allowance due to the rising cost of food. Further adjustments are expected, although Omar explained. Recall that a viral video of inmates' poor feeding condition emerged recently, showing the inmates at the Ofokang Custodial Center in Calabar, Cross River State being fed with poorly cooked meals. The spokesman said he could not speak more on the development because an investigation ordered by the Minister of Interior, Mr. Olubunmi Ojo, is yet to be submitted. But it was gathered that hitherto inmates were fed with 750 naira per day. This is actually different from what I heard from another correctional center. I can't really place the amounts now, but it was less than this particular amount. But this is just from media investigation that is actually 750 naira per day, 750,000 naira per day. That would be much, but 750 naira per day. How do you see this story?
And believe me, if the inmates consumes 750 naira per day, most persons enjoying freedom would want to be locked in the prison. That is if that was the case. Exactly. Most persons enjoying freedom in the country will want to do something that will take them to prison. That's a very heavy statement. Yeah, that's to tell you how hard. You know, we are the grassroots. We interface with the people. You see sound human beings now behaving like people that are mentally derailed as a result of hardship. You see somebody begging you, please, 200 naira, let me use to feed my family. And you'll be asking yourself, what can 200 naira get by? A mother that has 2 children, see, begging. If he begs you, move to another person. You know, the point I'm trying to make is that particular statement or the result of that medial investigation is not what is practice. The reality. It's not the reality. If inmate will consume 750 naira for feeding per day, believe me, is something that Nigerians should commend. I don't see that, you know, I don't see that. So it doesn't tally with the viral video that we saw where inmates were feeding poorly. Definitely, it has no correlation. It has no correlation at all. But how do you see the increase? You see, I don't understand. Is it that the government does not even listen to what the masses are saying? You're increasing as a result of hiking food price, right? You're now increasing the allowance for inmates to by 50%. would that reduce that hike in food price? It will not reduce it. So that means as you are ready to increase, the government should also be ready to increase it by 100% in the next 1 month or 2 months. So indirectly, you see the government encouraging this hike in prices. Because if you have increased the allowance of inmate by 50%, and I'm a trader, and I also have some in a particular place where it's inching, where the thing is biting, the economy is biting me. After 1 month, I will also adjust my 1 cup of gari. If I used to sell for 200 naira, I will add 50 naira or 100 naira, and I will be selling for 300. And then after 1 month or 2, I also expect the government to increase the allowance of inmate to maybe increase it by 70%. That is not what we need. The government, I don't know if they don't understand or they don't have the relevant professionals, or they are doing what they are doing intentionally. Let me not bring God into the matter, but I've overheard some person say God is punishing Nigerians for what they did. You know.
What did Nigerians do, please?
You know, there are some persons.
I check, I didn't do anything.
there are some persons that, you know, sold, let me use the word, their conscience, their right, and then instead of you to doing the right thing, you decided to just stay aloof. You stood on the fence. Some persons actually stood on the fence when it was time to decide who emerges, right from the local government level, beginning from the councillorship. You know, when we talk about government, it's not just the federal government. This thing revolves. Now, some persons have concluded that Nigerians were suffering because of what we have done. Some churches will tell you we don't conduct election. Our people does not participate when it comes to voting and then deciding who becomes their leader. And you now discover that those with what I call ill mindset and negative perception about the people, about the country, they see opportunity and then they enter into public offices, and they are now determining and deciding what happens to both the rational and the irrational ones. So that's why that particular person made that statement. Now that fuel is high, is it only a particular political party? It's affecting everybody. So our government should be sensitive. And if they are actually sensitive to the plight of the people and what the nation needs, that increase in allowance, yes, it's good. It will help to address that. But how sustainable? It will not address the issue of something prompted that hike in price, in the price of foodstuff. That is where the government energy should be channeled into. That is where all well-meaning, you know, nationalists, all those that are interested in the stability, growth, and advancement of Nigeria, that is where their energy should be channeled into. How do we address this issue of constant increase in price? Last week, we were talking about fuel issue, and I think I made mention of 850 and thereabout. I stepped out of this studio, went out, and I heard that they bought fuel for 1,100 naira. I was shocked, to my greatest surprise, within an interval of 24 hours. And from that last week till date, of course, angrily, I left the filling station about 3 days ago. Right before me, they were adjusting their meter. And that was where I parked. I was waiting for the attendant to attend to me. And then that particular meter they were selling for 1,100. As soon as they finished the meter behind me, they said, bros, I beg, go back. I said, how? Give me from here. And I said, no, use the meter, the other one. I quickly reversed, went back. I saw 1,003. I said, well, for what? I said, how much? They said 1,300. Believe me, I hadn't enough fuel, but I drove out by faith. Angrily, I left the fuel station. Now, there is a problem that Nigeria is facing. There is a focal point. There is something that is contributing to everything that is happening in Nigeria when it comes to hunger, you know, food scarcity, hike in price. There is something that is responsible. Has our government been able to pinpoint that particular problem and then start profiling or start calling for a suggestion on how to solve that particular issue? If
you think a 50% increase in the inmates' feeding would lead to inflation, from your explanation where you say after a month people want to increase the prices. Yeah,
what I'm trying to say that it will encourage, okay. That approach encourages the hike in price of foodstuff that we're already experiencing.
Would you say the same thing for the minimum wage increase?
For the minimum wage increase, of course, you and I know that even the minimum wage increase doesn't have what it takes to address the current reality when it comes to cost of things in Nigeria. It's just that Nigeria is, the masses, the Nigerian workers are peace-loving people, and Nigeria is a very wonderful country where those in authority have their say. They can, let me use the word manipulate. They can manipulate the masses the way they want. Otherwise, going by the current reality in Nigeria, the minimum wage is nothing. It's nothing but we just commended the government because there has been a shift from where we used to be to a new place.
With all of the issues going on in Nigeria, we cannot stop talking about the role that agriculture has to play. So let's talk about the agricultural sector now. We have reported that agriculture sector's growth and contribution to the economy took a downturn in the second quarter of 2024, apparently reflecting the peculiar problem of insecurity and farmers-headed clashes in the agricultural belt, as well as the general challenges confronting businesses in the country. Details of the gross domestic product figure for the second quarter of 2024 shows its contribution to the economy slowed to 22.61% from 23.01% a year ago. This represents a 4.14 trillion naira contribution to the total real GDP at 18.29 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2024. Similarly, the growth rate in the sector declined by 0.09% points to 1.41% from 1.50% in the corresponding period of second quarter of last year. However, on a quarter-on-quarter basis, the growth rate increased by 1.2% points from 0.18% growth recorded in the preceding quarter of 2024. Now, despite the security challenges, crop production remained the major driving sector, accounting for 87.4% of the overall nominal value of the sector during the period. In this recent data of the National Bureau of Statistics, it stated that the agricultural sector grew by 1.4%, down from the growth of 1.5% recorded in the second quarter of 2023. All right, let's go to the very last paragraph of this particular story, where it was stated the reason for all of this. It was stated that the reason for all of this could just be, yes, David Adori, the vice chairman of ICAP Security, attributed the slowed growth and declining contribution to the economy to calculated attacks by bandits and terrorists, which has progressively reduced the productive momentum of the sector. Now, that has been channeled to insecurity, and you have talked about the fact that you have been a victim, your farm have been a victim of insecurity in Nigeria regarding agriculture. Now, how do you see us coming out of this?
It still falls back to the government. It still falls back to the government. You see, it's not all about enacting policies, talking on air, government addressing insecurity issues verbally. The government needs to be very proactive, and once any form of insecurity is reported on agricultural enterprise or farm produce, the government should assist the farmer to get to the root point of that particular incident and deal decisively with the actors. So if the government doesn't show up, doesn't support the farmer in this area, believe me, the decline in crop production will continue. You know why this is like this? For instance, if I'm a poultry farmer, I can secure my poultry farm. But when it comes to crop, can you fence? How possible is that to fence 2 hectares, 3 hectares, 5 hectares, 10 hectares of crop farm by a farmer without government support and all of that? So it is a major challenge. The only way to address this issue is either the government permits the farmers to provide security for their farm and provide the relevant weapons that the farmer will need to guide his or her farm, or the government should provide the adequate security, or the government now deals very actively, deal with these perpetrators of these insecurities on farms.
Do you think they're not being persecuted?
They are, but is like 1 out of 50 by my assessment, if not even more. It's like one every day. There are records of insecurity, bandit, herdsmen attacking crops. At times they don't just come with weapons, but they are animal, they are farm animal, they are cattle. Destroy people's farm. That's high level of insecurity. That's high level of insecurity. So you don't expect the farmer to continue after investing. You will not, get the dividend of your labor. It is not encouraging. So the government has a lot to do to addressing this issue of hunger. If the herdsmen cannot be tamed, if they cannot really understand their limits, then the government should tame them by putting a kind of a barricade. Walk within within a particular geographical location. Don't go beyond this point. Government can as well do that, and you see this issue of insecurity, drastically reduced.
All right, thank you so much, Love. Data is no longer on our side as much as we would like to continue this conversation. But thank you, Love the Operum, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that's the coordinator of the Agri-Graduate Association of Nigeria, River State Chapter. At this point, we must say big thanks to you for being a part of this interesting conversation. Would have been possible without you. Remember to stay connected with us on all of our ATN socials on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, on X at Atlantic TV Net, and you can watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity have always been the pathway to progress. Thank you once again for watching. I am Enidoye Jackson. Coming up next is Open Conversation. Please stay with us on ATN.